Dr. Marisa Chan with Discovering Parenthood. So today we are going to begin our first in a series of 3, maybe 4 videos about building communication and relationships with our children, starting at infancy and on through the teen years. So in this video, I am going to cover building that relationship with young children, infancy into toddlerhood. And then the next video will be school-age children, and then finally the teen years. And I am in debate, and I'm not sure. I've toyed with the idea of doing a video for parents where maybe their teenage kids, there's a breach in that relationship. There's some friction, something has broken along the way in those years. So I'm kind of in debate whether to do a video on that for healing those relationships. So if you have an idea, if that's something you'd want to see, let me know and I'll move forward. If not, we'll see. Let's see at the end of the 3, maybe I'll throw in a 4th for healing broken relationships with our children. So in this video, I'm going to cover infancy. So that's where we will start. And we have this idea of when we have this little infant, this little baby, and I'm looking around my daughter's room to see if she has one of her baby dolls ready that I can borrow. How do you build a relationship with an infant? They can't talk, they can't communicate. Well, their cry is their communication. And those first few months, the relationship really is about safety and their primary needs, which is food. So those relationships are holding and feeding, however that takes the form. It's responding to those cries, their pain cry, their hunger cry, and then their safety cry. They're looking for you, and those are pretty much a relationship in those first few months. Making eye contact, smiling at them, so they can learn to mimic those facial expressions. And that's very important because they're not verbal. And because infants and young children are not verbal, they're looking at your face to see, am I okay? Is this a good relationship? Are my surroundings safe? So when you provide those basic needs, especially in those first few months, you are forming the basis of a relationship and you are communicating. When you respond to their cries and you respond to their looks or their gestures, you're communicating. And that's what that looks like in those first few months. There's not a whole lot of play. Maybe it's looking at books or the little rattle toys. There's some of that, but most of it really is fulfilling their basic needs. That's where they are developmentally. So as they move on and as they progress, at about a year, 15 months, 18 months, you're looking more play-based. So for toddlers, now we're talking a little more early childhood toddler age years. Their primary form of communication is play. So I am surrounded by some of my children's toys, and I have 3 kids. I don't know if I've mentioned that. I've talked about that in a couple of my other videos, but I do have 3 in varying ages. So play. That can take the form of anything, and early on, that's an easy way to build that communication and relationship is through books. And it's probably one of my favorite because it's not overly time consuming. There's not a lot of setup. We have this notion in our head as parents, and I know I did, to spend that quality time with my child, I have to take them on some extravagant excursion. That just isn't the case. It's not carving out a whole hour of your day. Many parents work outside the home, and many parents work very long hours. So carving out a whole hour, that's just not feasible. And you know what? It's not necessary. Your child does not need an entire hour one-on-one with you. They would probably get bored. But 10 or 15 minutes of your time one-on-one, your focused time, where you're not answering your phone, you're not texting, you're not on Facebook, you don't have, you're not listening to a podcast, you're not watching my video at that moment, but you're focused on them for 10 or 15 minutes. It's actually not a lot of time. Most of us can do that. We can find that. And if that time comes at night, and sometimes it does, then make it count. and one of my favorite books. And this went from my son to my daughter. It's so, they love it. My daughter is 2.5. She's my youngest. My middle one is 4. So this book actually can span that age, and it's Don't Push the Button. This is a lot of fun. It was given to us, actually it was given to my middle one as a birthday gift. But they have so much fun with this book, and we make it into a big game. And the other thing I like is you can then talk about the different colors. You know, name all the colors that you see. You can even count the Larrys. Anyways, this is a fun book, and it's easy. You can order it on Amazon, run to Barnes & Noble, whatever is your nearest bookstore. Find it at the library. The library's great. You can get it, you know, borrow it for free. But one of the things I love about books is that they are easy and you can engage with them. Practice, you know, oh, did you push the button? I pushed the button. It's just a lot of fun. You can do it in high or low voices. I have a friend who specializes in working with parents and kids on enjoying reading and how to incorporate that into their everyday life and really giving them the tools. And I had asked the question, when I've read a book every night for the last 4 months, and I think all you parents know exactly what I'm talking about, is it still benefiting them? And she said, absolutely. Read it in different voices, make different noises, read it backwards. So that's what the advice I'm going to give to you. Make different voices, read it backwards, try to come up with fun little things to expand, or don't even read, look at the picture and talk about the picture. You know, what do you see in the picture? What are they doing? These are great ways to engage with your child in a way that they're going to receive it, because that's the idea. We as the adults need to communicate and build that relationship where they can receive it, not us. I mean, our benefit is being with them, but they need to understand us. They need to understand us, and that's through play. So a couple of other things that I have here, you know, taking them out to the park. This is my daughter's. It's a pink soccer ball, and I have a blue and a green to then match, because I can't just buy one for one kid. I have to buy 3. You know, outside, kick the ball around for 10 minutes. Again, does not have to be big. It does not have to be extravagant. So my son, my middle one, he's into magnetiles. This is what he likes to do. He loves to build. Hooks up like a train. You get to sit around and play train for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever your time, whatever that time is. And when I'm really pressed for time, and because I have more than one, you've come home from work, you're cooking dinner, you've got to get it on the table. Well, sometimes I'll cook dinner at a low heat, and we'll play hide and seek. So I'll stir while I count. I'll be the seeker, and you count while you're stirring or chopping or tossing something in. I think you just take 15 seconds and go hunt them. Go find the kids. And that's really fun, because now you're spending quality time with multiple of your children, especially if you have more than one. And if you have more than one, you know what I'm talking about. Because that 10-15 minutes is now 45 minutes to an hour. And it's great when we can do that. But sometimes, let's just be real, we don't. Our time is compressed. So lumping an activity together is another really fun way. Another one that I have, so hide and seek. Hide and seek is always fun. And, especially when they're younger and they're saying, I'm here, come find me. And then they're learning to count. So another one that I like, that I can get all 3 of my kids together. And my oldest, this is a little young for him, but he still actually really enjoys it. And it's, I think they're called building bugs. But they're different colors. You have, you know, and I got this at Lakeshore, and it's a toddler version of Jenga. And you stack it up, and you have your little dice here that you roll, and you take turns, and it's lots of fun. They love yelling Jenga at the end. I think they purposely knock it over just to yell Jenga, but that's fine. And that's 10 or 15 minutes where I'm spending time with all 3. Sometimes it's one-on-one. Sometimes it's just 2 out of the 3. However that may take the form, but that is how toddlers communicate, through play. Now, I'm going to take a moment to talk to the stay-at-home moms. And I've been a stay-at-home mom. And I know you work hard. When I worked 55 hours a week, I worked less working outside the home than I did when I stayed home with my kids. I worked so hard. And sometimes people look at you like, oh, but you just chase kids around all day. Like, how can that be hard? I get it. You spend all day with your kids and you're like, really? I have to have one-on-one time, 10, 15 minutes? I've just run around with them all day long. I sit home with them. I'm home. We go on play dates. We go here. I take them to the park. But is that meaningful time? I used to think that as well. Well, I just took my kid on a play date and we went grocery shopping. Hey, we're home. We've done this or that. But am I interacting with them on a meaningful level in a way they can understand? And some days that answer was yes, I did. We played race cars and, 15 minutes, especially with my middle one, he was happy all day. That's what he needed to feel loved by me. That was about his time. That was his sweet spot. And then there were days that was no. We did run around. We had all these places to go and all these errands to run. And yes, they may have gone on a play date. And yes, I may have taken them to the park. But did I interact with them? Maybe not. Maybe I let them run around on their own. And that's good too. It's all about balance and harmony and finding what works for you. Another great way to build that communication is to listen. And I'm going to talk about this in all 3 videos because listening takes, just like communication, it morphs as a child ages and as they get older and as their interests evolve. So listening at first may be listening to your kid, yes, talk about Paw Patrol and Peppa Pig and Chuggington and Hot Wheels. And I know it gets old and we probably all fell asleep listening to the theme songs play in our head. That's where they are. And listening to, how so-and-so saved the day or, them going on with the theme song of whatever they're playing with. That's where they are. And if you can tolerate 5 or 6 minutes of listening and even engaging, well, did Chase save the puppy? Did Brewster make the delivery? As silly as that sounds, that's so important to them. And to know that you hear them and you, the parent, are so important to them. They see you. You are their role model. So for you to truly listen, and I'm not saying hearing, listen, because they're different, okay? Because hearing, we can hear stuff and it goes over our head. But I mean to really listen and be engaged. Even if it is only for that brief period of time, they know that, oh, if they're going to listen to me in the small stuff, now you're building that foundation that when they get to be teenagers and you want them to talk to you about the important stuff, well, you were there in the small stuff. So now you've built that foundation that will last all the way through the teenage years and hopefully into adulthood. I can't stress enough how important this is. When I worked with patients and when I worked in the therapy room, most of my patients would come in and it was the lack of relationship, the criticism, the neglect from their parents. So we as parents can inflict a lot of harm, maybe knowingly or unknowingly, with our children that lasts all the way into adult years. And this is what we want to avoid. Now, I'm not saying that communication and relationship will solve all your problems, but it's a really great start to be present with your child because they're only an infant one time. They're only a toddler once. They're only in first grade one time. They're only going to drive, start that time once. They're only teenagers. They're only this age one time. So I cannot stress enough how important it is to be engaged, to be present, and to be with them. And again, it doesn't take a whole hour. Don't worry about that. You don't have to take them out on something grandiose. It's going to be in the small moments where these relationships are built, where they're going to learn that you're listening and that you're engaged with what they have to say in the small stuff. So I hope that was helpful. So that's infancy through toddlerhood. So next week I will go over grade school as that morphs because wow, that is such a big jump and a big leap from infancy to toddlerhood, even though it's only a few short years. So remember, infancy, it is about their basic needs, their feeding, their safety, their need to be close to you. And that's what that is. Their communication is crying. That's how they communicate. And so we listen and we respond. Toddler-Hood, it's play. Very play-based. This is how they communicate. Again, they're not quite as verbal as a grade school child will be. So sometimes communicating is difficult verbally, but they can certainly communicate with their little people, which is my daughter's other favorite. That's how they hear you, and that's how they're going to communicate with you. So I hope that was helpful. Please leave comments, stories, questions that you may have in the comment section below, and I will leave a couple of links on communication, some very short, basic, ways to communicate with your children. It's stuff that I will also go over. So thank you.